All right, so I just recorded all of this and my mic wasn't picking up, so we're back again for the fourth time. But to you, this will be the first one. So, like the last time, we're going to just go over the issues first, and then I'll talk through each of the changes initially. But here's kind of three main issues that I view with this. And in general, I just want to start by saying these are great changes. This is really what I expected them to do. They made the initial design changes last week, and they came in and just cleaned it all up really nice this week. So we're actually not going to start with the first one, so I apologize if you have OCD and that triggers you. We're going to start with the last one. So water elemental versus class identity. There's a couple problems with this at the moment. The biggest problem is that frigid exposure is still a debuff, so just you're missing out on your 20% damage done to the second target or any targets in AoE, and it just can't survive like that. 20% damage in your main cooldown is too much to just have tied to only one target. And they made freeze apply it right at maximum stacks, which is great, but the stacks only last for 5 seconds, so it doesn't even matter because freeze is a 25-second cooldown. There's no way to reapply it in AoE. You'll apply it for 5 seconds and then it will fall off, for 20 more until your freeze comes back off cooldown, which does not work, obviously. So just needs to be changed to be a buff. That's all there is to say about that. Because otherwise, you're just conflicted about your 2-target niche and Frost class identity of being able to target swap freely. Just hurts that, and it shouldn't. And then Thermal Void, they nerfed it. Still has a problem with Water Jet because it's not capped. And since it's not capped, you will be extending it to breakpoints where you can get another Water Jet. And considering that would be like, for instance, in an unhasted Icy Veins, you'd be getting 50% more Water Jets because you'd go from 2 to 3. That's just too strong. And I'd really like for them to cap this. They capped other things like the Metamorphosis extension or whatever. I'm not sure, but someone else can give a good example of it. Demon Hunter definitely has one. Because otherwise, you will be in a situation where with your Water Jet on a 20-second cooldown, you have to use it instantly when you use Water Elemental. You have to use it instantly when it comes back off cooldown, and then you have to use it instantly when it comes back off cooldown right before Water Elemental falls off. And in Lust, you could get like a 60-second extension, and then you have to use it instantly again at the end of that. And that feels really bad. I'm parking Sarkareth right now as Arcane, and I absolutely hate how 1 second delay on my cooldowns just screws you up, makes your Touch of Magi explode when he's immune, when you're exiting P1, and just messes up timing the P2 and stuff. So yeah, that is really hope that does not remain. I'd love for them to cap it. Even if you cap the extension at like 8 seconds, this would still result in overall a 13-second increase to Icy Veins, give you a bit of that uptime feel, and it would be great. Your total Icy Veins duration would end up being 38 seconds, just shy of that extra Water Jet, which means you have a lot more leeway to use your Water Jet at the start of your Icy Veins, and it makes it not too toxic to, downtime mechanics. Because if it still exists and you can still reach these breakpoints with Water Jet, it still will be. So, yeah. It's the one major thing that I think they missed here in fixing the issues. And then the last one was just the anti-synergy that exists between Snowstorm and Coldest Snap. I'm actually going to cover that too. So they changed Coldest Snap to trigger off Cone of Cold and increased its cooldown to 45 seconds with it. Great changes. This is a capstone, definitely worthy of being a capstone. I do think that resetting all 3 abilities is a bit rough. I would probably prefer if it just didn't reset Blizzard, to be honest, because you're throwing out Blizzards every 6 seconds or sooner anyway in AoE. So just reset Frozen Orb and Counterstorm, that's fine. You don't need to have to press, 3 abilities after your Cone of Cold then and just be in a rush. I think that's a bit of bloat, really. And then the other thing was to address the ramp concerns with Snowstorm, they halved the amount of stacks it needs to reach maximum damage, which is good and bad. It's good because you'll get it, when all the mobs are alive, but it's bad because now it will stack, twice again as fast as Cone of Cold's cooldown when you have this talent, which you almost certainly will have in AoE. So that makes them anti-synergistic, right? Both of them make Cone of Cold a very strong ability that you want to press, but this one doesn't work with this one because you'll be losing, half your uses, which is kind of why I wanted them tied together a little bit. So I don't know if there's a way that they can kind of compromise and tie these together at some point, but yeah, not really sure what they want to do about that. It's definitely an issue that exists though, because as it stands, you would probably want to use both of these, and you kind of just don't. Looking at this makes me feel bad. Really makes me feel very sad. Very sad to look at that. Lastly, freezing winds bug. Really got to fix it. If we don't fix it, Coldest Snap is going to exacerbate the use cases of it. If you don't know what it is, freezing winds isn't a duration buff. If I shoot out, you'll see the buff has no duration. That's because it's not tied to the duration. It's tied to Frozen Orb. So when Frozen Orb despawns, I lose the buff, even if I have another Frozen Orb out. What this means is when you're going to do a Frozen Orb into a Cone of Cold into Frozen Orb combo, you just changed your Frozen Orbs by about 2 seconds. So you're always going to lose freezing winds in the last 2 to 3 seconds of your second orb. And then I'll probably continue chaining on and on, especially with it resetting Blizzard, so you gain more CDR. It's really bad. There's really no reason for it to exist, considering Freezing Rain works just fine. Just change it to a buff, and then we're fine. Like a buff with the 12-second duration to match orbs. It really needs it. It's been a bug for 3 years. Kind of needs to be fixed, because it's debilitating AoE. It's non-intuitive to hold your Frozen Orb for it, which you have to do in some situations. It's not great. Not great that it exists. So, yeah. And those were all the things I want to talk about, except I guess the last one would be the duration of Icy Veins. I still think it's too long. If you have a 40-second duration cooldown, which this is because of Thermal Void, then you're going to run into issues in Mythic Plus where packs last 15. And then you are forced to have your tank chain pull, or you'll lose your frigid exposure stacks. You'll lose your Icy Veins and the opportunity to extend it with Thermal Void. It's just pretty debilitating. And longer duration cooldown is fine. I think 30 seconds is okay. But once you get into 40, 50 seconds, like Icy Veins is looking like it will be, that's too much. And I think that people are really going to feel that effect, especially at lower key levels. It's one that is experienced by other classes like Boomy, for instance, as well. So I would prefer if it had a shorter duration. If they want to move more of the haste again into Winter's Blessing, I think that'd be good too. I've always, obviously been campaigning for that a lot. But yeah, we're going to talk about these individually now. So this was good. They just shifted the haste into Winter's Blessing. Is a fine conversion rate to gain 5% overall haste and lose 10% here. Very worth it. My haste on PTR is about 12% higher than it is on live. That's pretty disgusting considering how little I've spec'd into haste compared to some of the other stats. So quite good. Water Jet, this is them. We always expected them to do this. They were definitely going to make it so you could control your water elementals abilities, so that's good. They're just trying to nerf the amount of flurry generation that you get, because flurry and flurry's generation is far stronger than Ice Lance at the moment. This is fine, gives you a little bit more control over the stacks of frigid exposure. The only issue is it doesn't apply to CC immune targets right now, and also it leaves you in a weird spot of wanting to use freeze to apply your max stacks instead of shattering ability, but you'll probably use it to shatter an ability anyway at the start of Water Elemental, so whatever. Again, we already talked about Thermal Void, Frozen Orb. I would really prefer if they made it not move and placeable at the cursor. This is them trying to alleviate the pain that is, it's hitbox and it moving and tanks moving, but I think that the cursor thing should at the very least be an option. We have the points available for it. You can just tie it to Everlasting Frost or something, or just make it like a choice node that you get for free, like that the monk choice node between dashing and not dashing with their, I forget what it's called, the thing that gives them crit. So yeah, this is again them nerfing flurry generation to nerf flurry and make minimal Ice Lance a bit worse. It's good. Also nerfs Frostbolt. We already talked about those. Frozen Touch. This is them buffing Ice Lance, nerfing Frostbolt, or nerfing Frostbolt and nerfing flurry. Really, Glacial Spike. This is good, but the mastery change is what really saves it. But the 0.5 seconds is going to make it feel a lot more fluid, both in and out of Icy Veins. So I'm glad they did that. They didn't really need to do it, but it will definitely make it feel better. It's still a massively hard hitting ability. This is probably, yeah, this is just good. That's what we wanted to do. When they say this, where Mastery Icicles reduces the damage of Icicles by 25%, I think they really mean the Frozen Orb line, where its scaling was reduced to account for the newly added abilities, basically. It's not actually going to like inversely scale with your Icicles as you increase your Mastery. That doesn't make sense. But this makes your active abilities much, much better. Here's some pictures from Norner. You can see his Glacial Spike hit for 600k. His Ray of Frost hit for 750k. That's pretty good, right? It's actually quite OP, so it's going to need to get tuned down a little bit. As of now, it's quite likely you will be taking at least 2 of your active abilities in every situation, and probably all 3 in single target, but we'll see. This is not set in stone at all. This will definitely change, however minorly. We definitely are experiencing like a little bit of lack of options, especially in single target, but I think that's okay. So, yeah. The issue is, these 4 talents are only useful in AoE. This one's kind of weak, only useful in AoE, only useful in AoE. And then these 2 are like, maybe decent. You could probably use this in single target, and you could probably use this in single target, but this requires 2 points that are useless. And this one is just, we'll see. So, yeah. However, this might present a problem to some of you guys, because it does look like Frost is going to be a decent bit more complicated, and you'd be right. This is going to be a combo that you will at some point be doing in your rotation, right? Glacial Spike, Flurry, Comet Storm, Ice Lance, Ray of Frost, 2 Ice Lances from your Fringe Frost procs, and do a Frostbolt, Glacial Spike, Flurry, 2 Ice Lances. And this isn't even set in stone, because if you get a Splintering Cold proc, then you would be able to cast your Glacial Spike instead of this Frostbolt. So that's a lot of buttons to press, but it will feel pretty intuitive, I think, once you just learn about it. I mean, you're always going to cast Comet Storm right after a Flurry. You're always going to cast Ray of Frost on the second stack of Winter's Chill, and Glacial Spike is just going to fit anywhere you can fit it, basically, when you have a Flurry. So, quite interesting. I'm a fan, though there might be a little bit of button bloat for this. I think that Frost has become a lot more fun. I mean, look at this. Glacial Spike is a 1.9 second cast. I'm not even in Icy Veins. If I'm in Icy Veins and I'm in Lust, then Glacial Spike has a 1.2 second cast time. That would feel so good. That would feel so good in AoE. You're just slamming the Glacial Spikes. So I'm excited about this. I think they did a lot of really good changes, and honestly, they're mostly done. They're pretty much, they could be done, but those few problems still remain. The only 2 that are necessary, though I would really prefer that the Thermal Void and Snowstorm Cold Snap thing bit fixed, is the fact that Water Elemental is still a debuff, and the fact that Freezing Winds is still bugged in a ridiculous way. So that's the TLDR. That's everything. Hope you have a good day. I need to go write this forum post now. But yeah, leave any comments down below.